Hey ratbags, it's Jay. Today I'll get a lucky opportunity to show you what I've been doing in the latest Nightingale playtest. I've actually took part in a bunch of playtests for the game already for about a year and a half now, and this is the first time I can actually properly talk about the experience. Bearing in mind it is a playtest, the game's not out obviously until February next year. Now it's been delayed, but we have a final release date of February the 22nd and I'm super excited. This latest playtest is such an improvement on obviously previous ones, and as you would expect though, 5 months from release, there's still going to be stuff that may change, stuff that might not be final, and certainly stuff that needs improving. So shout out to Inflection for giving me the opportunity. You're going to see a mixture of B-roll footage, trailer footage, and my own screenshots that I've managed to take in about 3 hours of the latest playtest. I'm going to meander through some of that experience, playing with some of my rat bags and talking in generally about Nightingale and some of the systems and some of the stuff I like, and a few bits that I feel like could still need improving. So for the uninitiated, Nightingale is a survival co-op game focused on you building bases, surviving against all sorts of threats and creatures, and creating portals to alternate worlds that you'll be able to gather resources, get better weapons and armour, and hopefully progress to the end game. That's to me what it really is. Obviously the Steam page and the blurb you'll get is that you're stepping into a dangerous Fey realm and hopefully being an intrepid realm walker as you venture forth alone with friends, craft, explore, build and fight across a stunning gas lamp fantasy world. In this latest playtest, we actually had a chance to invite a few friends, which I did, and this really heightened the experience for me. In the previous playtest, I played basically on my own, maybe joining up with one other or two, only for brief moments. As you can see from the B-roll footage, there's plenty of time to mess around with your character and customise it to how you want. I didn't really mess around with that too much, and the early days are much like most survival games. Getting to grips with the loops of survival, eating, making sure you're killing and hunting creatures, and then skinning them to hopefully get meat, as well as foraging for resources, berries, wood, and maybe stone. But I want to talk about more advanced stuff like actually transporting yourself to other realms and utilising the portals so that you're a realm walker, as that's the mechanic that really makes this game shine and elevates it above other standard survival fare. So once we got settled with my rat bags, we built our base, gathered some resources to begin getting the crafting benches. It was then time to start examining the cards that you can make, and these are the realm cards, and you can choose just from a huge range, and it's so much bigger and better than I'd seen before. I hadn't opened up the full plethora of options. You can create realms however you want in terms of difficulty, types of animals, biomes, effects like weather and time of day. There are just so many different options that you can have so many different adventures on. It can be a bit overwhelming, but Nightingale have done a lot of work on the tutorial, so you're taken through a whole bunch of these portals and effectively travelling through different realms to get a flavour of what you might discover a bit later. It's honestly much improved from earlier playtests that we took part in. You're basically taken through a few start realms or realms that you might encounter later in the game, but you're only meant to spend a small amount of time there before moving on to your first respite realm. As you venture across different realms, you will come across lots of different NPCs and basically followers, some that you'll be able to get to help you. Especially for single players, this is a godsend because like most survival games, it is a bit grindy. But yeah, once you've got through and you're in your respite realm, that's when you can start building out your base and making your humble beginnings. From a basic tent to crafting your first workbenches, this is how you're going to start getting your gear, your weapons and your armour. There is a gear score, so depending on what gear you're wearing, then that will determine kind of the level that you might encounter or face in terms of creatures, as well as the portal choices, the card choices that you make. You'll be starting up in these crude sort of stick houses, but there's still a whole choice of design, using a blueprint system to go ahead and build and then placing the resources into the blueprints. Base building is another key tenet of this game, being able to craft and make the mansion, the fort, the castle of your dreams, while you hopefully use it to also defend against enemies. Now so far, as far as I know, the respite realm, the early starting one that you come across, is basically not going to have you being attacked by enemies. But as we've seen from the trailers before, these guys are attacking a base, and that might be down to where you've actually built that base. You can build houses, you can build huts, you can build anything you want on any of the other realms, but you've always got your respite realm that is yours to build on, even if you don't want friends joining. There's a huge amount of resources and crafting stations. If you've played Conan Exiles, you'll get the kind of idea. A crafting bench pretty much for everything that you do. And then you've got a whole bunch of upgrades a la Valheim. I do like this feature. It does feel a bit over the top sometimes though, with every crafting bench having a whole bunch of upgrades, with each upgrade unlocking brand new recipes. The idea, I'm guessing, is to encourage you to build an actual proper house, not just one big box with a bunch of crafting stations inside, making dedicated rooms so that you have all the resources you need and these upgrade extensions to really get through the game and unlock the potential. Having it all in a nice setting, an actual base, which obviously a lot of people really want to do. But for some players, they may feel it's a bit overdone with so many extensions needed. And they probably need to work on where exactly how you can place a lot of these. It is pretty forgiving. You can place almost the pretty much whole selection of upgrades across the different workbenches, on top sometimes, windowsills and more. And as long as they're close enough, it works just like Valheim, where they'll be tied in and it'll give you that upgrade status so you can unlock or see more recipes. So you'll get things like a sewing kit that you'll put on one of your crafting benches to unlock recipes, or maybe a carpenter's box that will help get at more stuff. There is just so many things and facets to this game that I never realised or got through to this stage. Things like a huge amount of enchantments that you can put on different armours and weapons. Potions galore, huge amount of food types, all sorts of weapons and armours. And so much of it is determined by you in terms of what stats you want, because depending on what you kill, what kind of resources you use, that will change the effects of the armor and weapons that you're making. Each creature drops their own individual bones, fur and meat, and these all have various different properties that will allow you to either get extra health regen or extra stamina. Much like other games and mechanics, I do like this feature and I think it's great. It does get a bit too much though when you're looking at a whole box of just bones and fur. So I'm hoping obviously by the time it releases we may see different types of art for it, or maybe even change the drops completely. Grounded is probably the best example of this lately. If you kill a stink bug, you get a gas bag. If you kill a bombardier beetle, you're going to go ahead and get bombardier bug parts. And then the following recipes you can only craft using them parts. And it's pretty much exactly like that in Valheim, except everything is just bones, hide and meat at the moment, and it kind of is just a bit boring. So either they maybe tone it down a little bit and make maybe bones more multi-use or fur more multi-use if you want it to be, or they commit and actually make specific drops specifically for that creature to make it visually appealing and make it just a bit more not resentful that you can't craft a special item because you're actually missing 2 bones of something when you've got 20 bones of something else. I've always had a big issue with games that are set on alien worlds yet present you with just Earth-like creatures. Sometimes though you don't want it to be too alien-like because then there's no recognition and it doesn't really make you feel that connected to the wildlife around you. Nightingale treads that just about right. You recognise the creatures and you go, oh yeah, that's going to be a pig. Obviously it's got its own name and it's got some individual traits and obviously appearances that make it just a bit different. In the early stages anyway, once you progress you start to see more alien-like creatures, more fantastical creatures, like this massive tree otten and some sort of deer god. So I'm really happy with the creatures, I'm really happy with the way they move at the moment. They're roaming around, some of them in packs and groups as you would expect, others may be a bit more solitary, others are going to be dangerous, some are going to be placid. And bearing in mind, once you get the grip of making these realm cards, you can control a lot in terms of what you explore at any given moment if you want to. So there's a plethora of different enemies. As I said, the bound are kind of the main enemies that you'll probably come across. Some of these will spawn at night time if you're not close to base, or you may have unfortunate circumstances where you delve into a cave or ruins and come across a whole nest of them. These creatures are pretty basic in terms of their AI and their movements. They generally will just try and attack you at all times. There's not really much thinking in terms of like strafing you or waiting for their moment. It's pretty basic AI at the moment, but I think it does pretty much work. Wolves will try and pounce on you, pigs will try and ram you, so you'll be defending yourself against these with a plethora of weapons, usually quite melee focused in the early days, but as we've seen from the latest trailer, it does get more bombastic in terms of guns and magic that you'll be able to utilise later. There is a third person mode. They've only just recently added this. Originally it wasn't meant to happen, it was just going to be first person only, but due to feedback from players, they've actually gone ahead and added it. It's experimental at the moment and it looks like it is coming along nicely. It's a smart move. You get to craft all these amazing clothing items, yet you only really ever see yourself in certain menus. So yes, it absolutely makes sense that you should be able to see your character at various points as you explore. Nightingale is a stunning looking game. Seeing the progress it made from the very first alpha test that I played over a year ago and to see where it's come now, it is just amazing. The maps are just really dense, they really feel like places that you want to explore, and there's so many different points of interest. When you factor in all the different types of realms that you can create, giving almost alien-like appearances to some planets and other places making it look like just Earth, it really is exceptional how dense and how nice and pretty the world is. These points of interest vary from just landmarks that you'll come across with maybe some resources that you might be able to grab. Who doesn't like some Italian meats at the cemetery? And these are all over the place. Sometimes they're not on the map, sometimes bigger points of interest are, as they'll be alluding to maybe dungeons or some sort of special area or danger. Combined with the effects and obviously the Unreal Engine 5, the lighting is amazing. The vistas are great. They've really improved the draw distance and the foliage to make it actually look really nice and just really present. In the first 3 hours, you'll go through 3 or 4 different realms with just the tutorial basically and get to experience a small taste of what is out there. And of course, this is the early access launch. I'm sure they're going to be adding even more combinations and realms and places to discover in the future. You literally cannot move for the amount of lore fragments you'll come across at these locations. Reminds me a bit like the Explorer notes in Ark, and obviously just giving a lot more meaning to the world around you. I definitely would like to see this improved in future though. Some different ways to experience these lore stones or lore notes. Maybe like the ghost system from Conan Exiles, just some different way to deliver it other than just walls of text. A big part of Nightingale is puzzle elements, and I'm not talking over the top, but certain things where you have to touch touchstones in the right order to gain access to some extra loot. And I know there's much more advanced ones as you go through, but hopefully not too hard. This is a really cool feature. It can be overdone sometimes where it's like, okay, let's go and turn on the 3 things. In other games, it kind of got a bit tiresome, but as long as they can keep up the mix of these and have different types of puzzles or different types of environmental areas like this to explore, then I think it really will be worth pursuing and adding even more. There's plenty of stuff not marked on the map as well, like this cave that I went to explore. First time I realised there was some. Filled with rich resources, as you might expect. And of course guarded by some dangerous wildlife like this bear. Everywhere you look, it's almost worthy of taking screenshots. It must be some sort of raw inflection, with the lighting, the night and day cycle giving these huge amazing sunsets and sunrises, and of course the varied landscape. Now, it may all look pretty, but of course it's dangerous as well. It didn't take me long to create a realm that was simply way too hard for my current level, not enough gear, not enough items, and just facing off against enemies way above my level. But that's the beauty. If you do come across something like that, you can basically change it. It does take a cost. Some cards expire after one-time use, and so you'll have to craft them again. But you can come across portals that you'll be able to activate as well, or utilise yourself rather than use all your resources. And yeah, you can choose to make any one of these respites your home. Your other friends can choose that same realm to be their home, and you basically share that experience with each other, crafting and gathering resources. And that's what me and my ratbags did. We chose one realm together and basically just pulled our resources. It definitely increased the speed. I have yet to actually get a follower myself, but I definitely have seen a lot of chat and talk about them. So I'm presuming they'll help out a lot if you're just still a solo player. All in all, the first 3 hours really guide you through the basics. It is going to be one of them where you're going to have to craft a whole bunch of stuff to get kind of anywhere. But once you break through that after the tutorial, which does a good job, it then opens up and you really start to get excited about what the possibilities are out there. It's almost crazy how big these realms are. I was always worried it'd be a bit too small and it wouldn't really feel like a land or a realm to really have a home in. It would just be some small little corner somewhere. But they are vast and you can come across so much different topography, mountains, lakes, and obviously once you choose different types of realms, rich variety in the way they're presented. If it's a swamp, if it's a desert. And this has been greatly improved since previous versions. Like I said, it really feels lived in, it really feels like there's a lot of foliage, everything's dense, it does feel like a realm that I want to go and take a look at more. Right now, some aspects that I'm hoping will definitely get changed, and I'm sure they will based on the feedback already, is still stuff to do with the UI and the inventory management. It still feels very tailor-made for PC, and I've said they're going to hopefully introduce controller support, and I expect that to be wrapped up near a release. But beyond that, crafting can be a bit fussy. With the different amounts of bone and hides and stuff, you basically have to choose which one you want each time you go ahead and craft something. And so it becomes a bit monotonous going through the little sub menus or click boxes to choose what you want. There's no real quick crafting here. There is a time on certain things to be crafted, so it may take a few minutes for certain things, or if you're making stuff in bulk, then you can queue stuff up and leave it there, but only one of one type thing. So you can't make a whole bunch of meals, then potions. It has to be all that one meal, 10 of them, and then come back in 2 minutes and it's all done. But for sure, I do want to see the UI improved a little bit. It tells you what's going on. You've got your stamina bar, you've got your food bar, and the food isn't oppressive like other games. You're not going to be running out or having to eat 20 steaks all day long, which I'm really pleased with. It's more akin to giving you more buffs. That's the idea of making certain types of food or salves or potions to give you what you need for that kind of environment or facing up against a certain enemy. There is pretty challenging weather effects. If you get wet, it may affect you with debuffs. Too hot, too cold, you get the idea. And I'm expecting all that to be made a bit more clearer sometimes, rather than just these tiny little dialogue boxes that might pop up. 5 months from release, as expected, a few placeholder textures and stuff, but yeah, the game is really shaping up to be a pretty little survival game. It took a while though to join up with our friends. You have to complete the tutorial stage where you go through the different portals, and then there was an idea that you're crafting together, so there were some things that you could kind of cheat. If you all contribute to building a portal, then it marks the actual mission as done for everyone, which I really appreciated. But then there was some stuff that we all had to go ahead and craft, like a spyglass. So I'm hoping that they add more group activities so that you can complete them all together, rather than all just be doing the same thing together but not together. But it's definitely a game made for multiplayer, and unlike games that are better with friends, that normally gets attributed to basically crap games, this is not the case. Nightingale, I think, will be an enjoyable experience for a solo player, taking your time, almost meditative and chill in the early days before deciding to take on more dangerous realms. Not too sure how the scaling works though with friends. We encountered a few groups or activities we did together, but it wasn't like there was a billion enemies on screen at one time just because there was 4 of us. So I'd like to really see more info about scaling and how it works in multiplayer, because I just didn't really get a grip on it. Like, was it just tailored to just me because it seemed okay when I was fighting creatures, and other creatures felt more tanky to others, maybe because they were higher level? I'm not too sure. It just wasn't made very clear. So that UI and explaining some of this stuff to us and just the menus all need to be improved, I'm sure, for the launch, and I'm sure they will be. All in all, from the progress I've seen from the early playtest, which I took part in pretty much every one, even in limited time, to what it is now, it's miles ahead of where it was. So that's what I came across with. The potential is there for sure. The amount of base building, the complexities of creating these vast estates with your friends, getting the right gear, the kind of big grind and having the right resources or the crafting benches, they will all appeal to a big majority of survival fans. For the more casual, maybe RPG player that likes the world or the look of the story, I'm not too sure they're going to enjoy so much more of that grind and so much more of the complexities of it. With the latest trailer showing off so much more of the advanced stuff, and now seeing my route to what I can craft and create with more of the realm cards, I'm so much more excited than Nightingale than I even was before. I just think they probably need to simplify some stuff, make some of the crafting options a little bit more generic, and maybe show off the follower system to players a little bit earlier as well, just to show off that, yeah, if you're a solo player, you will be able to enjoy this game. It's not going to be so grindy or out the realms that it's going to be enjoyable. Lots of things that I can't answer at the moment, like how the base maybe defense mechanics work, whether or not the bound and other creatures really will attack you, how we really will interact with NPCs and what kinds of things we'll experience with them later on. The progression system in terms of the story, is it really going to lead you through to Nightingale, which supposedly is from the trailers what we're meant to be going towards? and getting that balance right between playing on your own, with friends, and then making sure it's very clear about what kinds of realms and what kinds of score or what kind of gear you're going to need before maybe creating that realm is probably important. But I'm eager and excited to check out more of the realms and see what kind of environments, points of interest to come across, and enemies to slay. So thanks a lot, Inflections. Big shout out to Scarbs and Aaron and the rest of the crew out there, and just everyone else as well, all the creators that have been giving feedback as well. It's really good to see, and yeah, I can honestly see Nightingale being the biggest game of next year. Just got to make sure performance is right, connectivity is right, and it's really explained adequately to everyone how the realms work, how you play with others and play on your own, and what we can expect from how many people can play together. If you've enjoyed my first impressions, do leave a like. Make sure you subscribe because I'll be all over Nightingale when it releases, with lots of preview videos and of course guides and gameplay when it's here. Until next time, Ratbags, I'll see you later.